I get you have options. You're handsome, you're successful, you will have options forever. So it really is in your hands, your fate. So you can tell me I'm great all you want, but you're not pursuing me, and I know why. Because I require too much. And that's all right. I'm okay with that.
What do you mean by that, though? What do you mean what do you require?
I require discipline and intention. And I require a level of like investment in terms of time. And you know what? It's like you can say, oh, I took her to this restaurant, I took her to that restaurant. And I'd be like, well, what's my favorite color? There's no amount of dinners that you will ever buy for me that will get my panties off. So you really need to figure out what it is that you think you have to offer and what it is that you think I value, because it's never going to happen without real investment. I can do it myself. I can pay for whatever restaurant I want to go to myself.
Yeah.
I have a nice car. I have a nice house. I have friends. I have a successful career. So I am emancipated to a certain extent because those things don't entice me. So it kind of is a what do you bring to the table that's not material. That is something that's compelling.
I guess I'm looking at something totally different. I guess this is where that men are from Mars, women are from Venus. I happened to see not that particular show, but when she was on what's the guy's podcast? My dear future wifey. On that one, and I had watched that whole one. She was pretty much reiterating the same thing, and what y'all are seeing, I guess I have a different perspective from seeing her in that interview, and then also from the female perspective as well. I don't think this is my interpretation. I don't think what she's saying is necessarily coming from a place of hurt. I think it's coming from a place of healing and knowing. So when you go through stuff, it's kind of like, okay, I've done this. Now I have identified what my standards are, what I'm not going to settle for, because this isn't going to land the results that I need now that I am healed and want more, right? So some of the things that I had wrote down, I think sometimes, again, this is my opinion, when men run into women who are confident and very assured of themselves, a lot of times they misinterpret that as a woman being like, you said, Louis, pretentious, or being like, oh, she thinks she all of that, or, like those kind of things. But when you have knowledge of self and you begin to know who you are, you do develop a set of standards that you expect somebody either to respect or reject and move on, right? And I think that was the place from where she was speaking from. Like, a lot of men and women reinforce the idea of, you can get me with a few dinners, pay a few bills, and you can get in my pants. So if men are leading with that and women are reinforcing that same messaging, what she's saying is, you got to come at me different, because I'm not one of those women, because I can buy my own dinners. So you can't, butter me up with dinners and nice jewelry and nice cars and paying my bills, because I can provide all of those things my own. What I'm looking for is substance, right? And that's not something that you can measure in how many material things you can get me. So that was what I heard and saw. And one of the other things that it was crazy, because I was literally having a conversation with somebody at work today. And one of the things that we had talked about was, when people say that comment, bring to the table, or, a lot of times when people begin to explain and describe what they're bringing to the table, is usually something that is superficial materialistic. Like typically when women are asking that to men, they're talking about monetary and materialistic things. And men, when they ask that, are typically looking for service and support. Like, how are you going to do those things? But all of those things to me are very superficial, when the real thing is the character of the substance of a person, the character of a person, um, instead of describing what they do. Um, they describe what they do as opposed to who they are. So, but I think she was clarifying that the type of woman I am, these things aren't going to impress me. I'm not going to have sex with you just because you provided these things, because I can do that myself. I'm worth more than that. I value myself more than that, which is odd because all of the men up here talk about that all the time. A woman knowing what she wants, setting standards, not the cutest man that come across, then all of a sudden she throw her standards to the side. So you have a woman now that's saying, I have standards. This is what I expect. You're not going to get my panties off because you do this. And now y'all are saying she heard it.
I,
Gentlemen, hold the line. Hold the line.
I agree with most of what you said, right? But there are a few things where I disagreed. One was the confidence thing, right? I don't find that she's confident. At least she's not. I don't feel that she's confident in her femininity. I think she's confident in her masculinity, which is why all the measurements that she used to say that she's good is, oh, I can provide for myself. I have my own money. There's no amount of masculine, quote unquote, providing whatever you're going to do that's going to get the panties off. But she didn't seem confident in her femininity. And the reason why I say that is because she wasn't under attack in that interview, but her entire tone, her entire energy was masculine and defensive. It sounded like she's in a boardroom, but she's talking about relationships and love. This is a woman talking about relationships and love. There was no softness in her. That's part of the problem. I personally think that that's why people aren't pursuing her, because, and also she didn't really list any of those standards besides the one standard she listed is knowing her favorite color. Besides that, she just said, you're going to have to decide what it is that you think you bring to the table, and you're going to have to figure out and decide what it is you think that I'm looking for. But she actually didn't provide any standards. So if there was any man that was watching that show and seeing her as a potential to date, they still wouldn't know how to approach her because she has not said what her standards are. And that alone communicates that she's difficult, because she has the opportunity freely with no resistance to give her standards freely, and she still didn't do it. So imagine what it would be like when you're sitting on a date with her.
I just have a quick question. Are standards for, if it's her standards, is it for her to give you a list and tell you these are my standards? Or is she supposed to know those standards and observe you to determine whether or not you are a person that's in alignment with her standards? I think
a standard is something that can be communicated.
She should not tell you what her standards are, because that's giving you the roadmap to you pretending to do all of these things that I say that I'm looking for. So I have to watch to make sure that your actions are in alignment with what I'm saying I need and want for my, in a partner.
Okay.
I 100% agree with what Ms. Staken said. Absolutely. But to piggyback off of what Clout was saying, if I was sitting on the opposite side of a dinner table with her, and she said that these are my requirements, your requirements, that sounds as if you're not going to allow for this to be genuine or organic. There's going to constantly be tests. I'm going to be tested constantly. This is going to be something that you are literally going to make me, we already invest into relationships, but now I'm going to have to be super duper invested in order to just scrape the surface with whatever is going to be presented. To most men, I would assume now that I've joined this YouTube space, I know that it is complicated for some men, but I would think for the most part, a woman having standards and confidence is the most beautiful and sexy thing a woman could have. So the only way that a man will be intimidated by that is if you are overly masculine and I have to protect myself. So this is why I'm so confident, much rather than you just being confident.